And away we go. Welcome back, everyone. It is Matchday -1 here from St. David's Performance Centre. Matchday -1 brought to you by PointsBet, founding partner of Austin FC. And it is fantastic to be back. Adrian Healey in the company once again after a long absence of Mr. Michael Lahoud. Welcome back, Michael, from your world tour.
Yeah, thank you very much. Feels good to be back in the saddle.
Yeah, we should just add, for those that aren't fully aware, your status has changed since we last saw you. You're no longer a free agent. You're off the market. Big money transfer fee involved.
Yeah, it's going to be printed in the Estonia very soon. World record transfer fee, biggest signing to Team Lahoud in history. Right. I got married. My wife, Lara, is added to the roster in Lahoud's.
But Great to have you back. Congratulations. The break. Let's start with that because while you were gone, team had the 3-week international break. It wasn't a complete break, of course. So let's recap what happened during the break. Team had some time off after the LA game, and then of course those two big events at Q2 Stadium, which you were there for both of. I was only there for one of them. Yeah. Full disclosure, but you were there for both of them. So what was your impression of just what occurred over the last week or two?
It's special, first of all, to have both the U.S. men's national team and Pachuca, which is one of the biggest teams in Mexico and a very successful team in Liga MX, here in Austin at Q2 Stadium. The first match, the U.S., it was a soccer festival. Yeah. When you see the amount of goals, the way the team played in the second half was incredible. And there's a saying in Austin is a soccer city. Well, it's living up to the billing, and both those games showed why. Yeah,
they were tremendous nights. So I thoroughly, even though obviously the result didn't go the way we wanted against Pachuca, it was a great night, great crowds, buzzing atmosphere against a good team, and I think a useful exercise for the team. Even though obviously the first half, it was a rust removal exercise, which I think certainly served a purpose, didn't it?
As a former player, those were always the toughest things to do. And you want to get the rust out in those friendly matches. That's a big reason why you're there from the soccer side of things, is to get a gauge of where the guys are at coming from vacation. Some guys going abroad, some guys staying local. Now you get back to business, get back to MLS play.
Yeah. Last thing on the break, of course, this happened just yesterday. Just wanted to get your quick take on the 2026 World Cup venue announcements. Obviously, some Texas interest with Dallas and Houston both getting selected. Were you surprised at all by any venues that did make the cut? Many venues that didn't.
I'm surprised. I'm gonna throw it back, and I know Cam. Shout out to you. You'll feel this shout. Washington D.C.
Yeah. Nation's capital.
The nation's capital not getting any love for the World Cup. That was a big surprise for me. And some other cities, Orlando and Miami is really the cultural hub and connection to Latin America. So I could see that. Vegas, a possible shout with just the growth in that city as well. But just a couple eyebrow raisers on some teams. But let's talk Texas. Yeah. Dallas, Houston. There's going to be a lot of people coming through Austin. Oh, yeah. Because Austin, to get to those cities, you got to go through there.
Yeah, it's going to be amazing. Lots more to talk about 2026, but now it kind of almost feels real, doesn't it? That it's that announcement has been made. Let's turn the attention back to matters at hand after the break. Here we are, just ahead of the Montreal game, where Austin will resume MLS play. Big picture at the moment, Michael. Coming into the break, 14 games played, 4th place in the Western Conference, 7 wins, 4 losses, 3 defeats, 28 goals scored for Austin. Still the second top scorers in the league. I think if you just look at those numbers, there has to be a huge element of satisfaction of where this team is 14 games into the season.
Well, a lot of this season is getting off the mark and setting the tone for the work that awaits. Yeah. And I think job well done for Josh Wolf, Claude Arena, and their entire staff. And credit to the players. There's added buy-in. The roster development, the roster buildup continues. Maxi Urruti, just the quality he's brought to the front line, leading it. What hasn't been there all the time with goals, he's a key player in the buildup, and his work rate off the ball has been incredible. Now, here comes, and Josh used the word, that was really interesting. Here comes the defining moment
Yeah.
for this team. And not the defining moment for the season, but what type of team are we as we move forward? And these games really help kind of etch that out.
All of us as broadcasters, as fans, we live the ups and downs of this team through every day, don't we? And week in, week out. So the way it unfolded in those 14 games, where March and April completely went our way, and then May maybe didn't. It kind of that's the taste you're left with. But I think it's more sort of revealing just to look at where we are after 14 games, and who wouldn't have taken this position after 14 games if you'd been offered it back in February. Everyone would have taken it. We're still top 4. We still have a home playoff game. If the playoffs started right now, we'd have a home playoff game.
Well, what's been an added bonus for this team, a lot of some of the uphill battles of last year was getting results on the road.
Yeah.
Now we're a competitive team.
Yep.
Not just competitive, we are finding ways to get results on the road. And you want to be a playoff team, you got to win at home, yes. But you also got to find ways to get points on the road.
Yeah. And we've seen, the individual contributions we talk about right down the spine of the team is maybe where I want to focus just briefly. Driussi, obviously, but also Danny Pereira behind him and Ruben Gabrielson. That spine, what a difference that has made. And we saw actually what happens without them in the first half against Pachuca last week.
Well, their attitude and how they approach the game. We've seen this from Seba last year, and you and I talked about this. One of the first games where he wore the captain's armband, I think it was the LA game where we won at Q2 Stadium over the Galaxy. His work rate for the team, whether it's delivering the knockout blow offensively or tracking back to make a big tackle, you don't see that from a lot of designated players, and rightfully so. He is in the MVP candidate conversation, even though it's early in the season. This guy is for real. And of those players, another guy that I think we should give love to, talk about Road Warriors, Diego Fagundes.
Yeah.
He just continues to step up for the Verde and Black.
Yes, he does. I think a lot of you saw that statistic put out by our amazing communications department earlier the week about how many goal contributions he's made on the road specifically. And Diego Fagundes is heading into a place where he's also done a lot of damage in his career. He has a great history against Montreal. I keep on wanting to call them the Montreal.
I know.
How can you not say the Impact? I'm almost wedded to that. But we'll get into that now, shall we? With heading north, Austin and Montreal. Another first for this team. I talk about firsts. First ever meeting. Our fifth game of the year against Eastern Conference opponents, Michael, and the previous 4 have been pretty good. Let's face it. 10 points from those 4 games, including that last-minute dramatic equalizer against Orlando. The 3 previous wins, 2 at home. What sort of test is this? Because you look at the records on paper, and Montreal actually have a very similar record to us. Very similar. Third place in the Eastern Conference. They've scored exactly the same amount of goals in 28. They're 1 point behind us on 23. So they seem to be in a similar kind of overall situation. But what sort of footballing test is this going to be for the Verde and Black?
This is going to be a very unique test. First of all, how they play. They're a team that's still trying to find themselves from where they were last year. Last season, very defensive-minded team. Didn't give you much, but they didn't score much. Right. This season, the polar opposite. They can score a ton of goals, but they don't defend as well. They're not the kings of shutouts as they used to be, or one-goal games. And when it's a one-goal game, 4-3 seems to be the golden number for them, win or lose.
Yeah, and they've had those 2 4-3 games against Cincinnati. When you look at the common opponents we faced, there's some interesting contrast there. But again, you wonder what the dynamic is like coming into this game off an international break. I know you sort of went through this as a player many times, and that kind of re-energizing after an international break. Austin had the friendly last week against Pachuca. What sort of state are Montreal going to be in after 3 weeks off, and some of their players have traveled internationally as well?
I think that's going to be a big talking point coming into this match. For Montreal, you have some Canadian internationals. They played some really tough games in the Nations League. And when you're a player coming off international duty and you're the home team, I find it almost harder to get up to get back into business and get refocused and transition the mind more than the body back into MLS play. For the road team that is Austin FC, you're at least getting into that business mindset. This is a business trip. Montreal is a beautiful city. And, when you go north of the border, highly recommend you go there. But that's not what the show is about. It's not tourism, Montreal. This is a soccer match. And Austin FC, if they come with a business mentality, they will be successful.
Yeah, it's funny looking at their season so far. Montreal, in some ways, have had a sort of mirror image of Austin's season because they started poorly, had 3 straight defeats. Then they went on this amazing run like we did in March and April. And then they kind of tailed off a little bit towards the end of May. They ended with a win in May, but they had 2 home defeats. But teams from the West have gone in there and won this season. RSL most recently went there and won.
Yeah, and how they've done that is pressuring them.
Yeah.
Typically, when you go on the road, you give more of a measured approach. But looking at that RSL game, RSL, they stifled Montreal. They play with a back 3, and their 3 central defenders aren't the best passers of the ball when you put them under pressure. So if you're Austin FC, I would gauge how they deal with the high press. Maxi Ruti played to his strengths. He loves to press. And, he's familiar territory.
Yes.
Going back to familiar grounds.
Couple of players. And members of the coaching staff going back to familiar territory, with Felipe having spent 3 years in Montreal. I'm sure he'll be involved at some stage. Davy Arnaud knows the city very well.
Yeah, well, guys I remember playing against, and I think I saw more of the back of their jerseys more than the front, laying on the ground on some tackles with Davy and Felipe.
Yeah, what's it? I know you played up there. It's gonna be a lot cooler than it is here. It may even be wet. We're hearing some rain in the forecast up there. It's a small stadium, isn't it? Stade Saputo. It's pretty tight. What's that experience going to be like for our players that haven't been there yet?
Well, it's a stadium that you don't want to give up an early goal.
Right.
Montreal, they're fast starters at home more so than they are on the road. And if they're at full strength, we'll see what the health status of some of their players will be. They like to start fast. And really, the first 60 minutes of the game, they will give you everything that they have. And then they'll tail off a bit energy-wise. So for Austin FC, you have to be efficient when you get your opportunities on the road against a team that's been pretty effective at home.
Yeah, they have. As I said, 3rd place in the East. It's also tight at this point in the season, though. But you said it. I mean, Josh said it to us. A defining portion of the season coming up, specifically these next 7 games with 5 of them on the road. How big would it be to go up there and get something positive, even if it's just a point, bringing something home from the road to start this really tough period of the rest of June and into July?
Well, setting the tone.
Yeah.
This first part of the season, they set the tone coming out of the stalls, making Q2 Stadium a fortress. This part of the season, they become road warriors. That is the goal. Can you be a team that gets points on the road in tough places to play? Because if you look at the next 7 games, for the most part, you're playing against teams in playoff contention and teams that at the end of the season are going to be in the conversation to pursue an MLS Cup.
Yeah. Really looking forward to the midfield battle at Stade Saputo with Victor Wanyama. For them is a guy that's played at the very highest level and is so savvy. But that battle between him and Drewson Ring and Danny Pereira, that to me is like, can we win that? Can we win that possession battle is a key.
Well, tactically, they play a back 5.
Yeah.
And defensively, it's going to be a 5-2-3. They'll leave the front 3 high up. They're not there to defend. They're there to be accounted for in transition and attack. And when you play against that back 7, you have to be alert and really let the ball do the work. See if you can shift them from side to side. I've been in that formation. It is miserable as a defensive midfielder if you're Victor Wanyama. He's a big body, not as mobile as he was when he played in England.
Right.
So shift them from side to side and see where the numerical advantage is in midfield, and then play entry passes into Sebastian Driussi behind that wall of 2.
Yeah. You know who's been really good for him since he arrived, really canny in MLS signing, Alistair Johnson. You mentioned Canadian international. Got him from Nashville. He's been terrific up and down that right-hand side.
Yeah, he went to a certain college with the top hat.
Yeah, maybe.
Wake Forest guy. No, he's been a revelation since coming to MLS, and last year was really just a breakout year for him with what he did with Nashville, and he continues to develop with the Canadian national team. And we've seen him play with the Canadian national team as a center back on the right side of that back three. His natural position is playing as an attacking right wing back. Look for him to get high and get crosses in. He's a good crosser of the ball.
That's going to be a really interesting battle on that side, whether it's Jan Kolmanich or John Gallagher. Them against Johnston, that could be one of the keys to the game, I think.
Well, with your wingbacks playing high like that, transition will be on. And Diego Fagundes, he loves transition. Remember the goal he scored against LAFC?
Yeah.
LA was throwing so many numbers up high. What does that do? It leaves space for the likes of he or Driussi to exploit as the game goes on.
I'm so glad you keep on returning to Diego, because to me, he's still not getting enough love nationally for what he's doing this year, and just being terrific. As we mentioned, looking for a potential Austin goal scorer in Montreal. Why not Mr. Fagundes? He's 6 goals and 6 assists.
I wonder what the PointsBet over-under on that. What are the Vegas odds on it? Maybe someone needs to cash in on that this weekend.
Just
Fagundes goal or assist.
A little tip for you there. Let's turn to the Lahoud mood. It's been far too long since we've shone a light on the Lahoud mood and gauged that temperature. How are you feeling, sir, heading into French Canadian territory?
First and foremost, the Lahoud mood is back.
Yes.
It feels good to say that. Feels good to be back in the saddle, as I said. And for Austin FC, we'll just do a taste test of Lahoud mood. We'll start with mentality.
Yeah.
To be coming off the break, the teams that respond the best, we saw it for some other teams around the league. Seattle making themselves known again with a resounding win. Mentality is everything in the summer months, especially when you're on the road. Start the match in the right way. And it leads me to the second thing, competition. Compete. Get back to winning 1v1 battles against the back five with the wing backs. Competition with both outside backs, our outside backs versus theirs, is going to be crucial.
We got to make life really tough for goalkeeper Sebastian Brazier, haven't we?
Oh,
I mean, I think there's a stat out there. He maybe not one of the best shot stoppers in the league. I'm not sure how accurate that is, but maybe that's something that's been.
So you're saying maybe shots from distance might be
possibly
might help us out a little bit. Well,
possibly.
We've got some sharpshooters. Driussi, Alex Ring can hit them from distance as well.
Yep.
Maxi's hit a couple on this inside the box, but he can still hit them. Wonder goals he scored.
Yep. Would you another Aruti Rush? You know, he tends to score his goals in bunches, doesn't he? Had that bunch in April, then maybe not so much in May, but now it's time again. And he's another one heading back to former territories as well. Remember, he had two pretty good years in Montreal.
Yeah, it's amazing. These are the things that I loved as a former player. When you go back to old territory, you play with a bit of edge. You want the ball more. You want to prove a point that life without you is not life at all. So look for Maxi to be up for this match.
Yeah, we are all up for it. It feels like it's been way too long since we've done a broadcast together. So I cannot wait. 6:30 kickoff. Remember, Central Time on Saturday. Just to wrap things up for today, we love to always give a moment of gratitude because there's so many people here involved with the club and the organization, both here at St. David's and everywhere around the city, who don't get the love that they should, because there's always huge contributions made off the field. And actually, we're going to give a shout out to someone right in this room today, the man who makes all of this technically possible, and all the other shows that you have watched. Mate Gon Vos with all the boys yesterday. That man is Spencer Smallwood. Let's hear it for Spencer, because he does he's the man behind the curtain, isn't he? He's the Wizard of Oz. He just pulls all the levers and hits all the right buttons and enables us to do this stuff. So he stepped up to the plate and kind of volunteered to do all of this. So he's been amazing.
Yeah, it's been, to get to know Spenny as a coworker is one thing. To get to know him as a person is an added bonus. So shout out to you, Spenny, giving you the Mate Cone Heart.
Yes.
Right back at you.
There it is. Yeah, we need a camera pointing in that direction to highlight him. So thank.
I'd like to add one thing as well to the moment of gratitude. Something that's personal for me, and it takes place here in Texas. This is the day, the match is happening the day before Juneteenth.
Yes.
And Juneteenth was really unique. Yeah. Our first ever home opener.
Right.
Happened on Juneteenth.
Yeah. Glad you
So,
mentioned that.
just it's part of Texas history, and I feel honored that we get to use our voices to talk about something that's so significant as that. So I'd be remiss if I didn't bring that up.
It's amazing to think, isn't it? That it's a year. It will be a year ago to the day that Q2 opened its doors to an Austin FC home game for the first time. Never to be forgotten, that home opener on Juneteenth, as you said. So we will of course celebrate that as well tomorrow during our broadcast and the pre-game show. Hope you can join us for that, as Austin are on their way to Montreal as we speak right now. We'll have full coverage of the game on the CW. That's where the game is tomorrow. Half-hour pre-game show with this man back in the chair at the desk with the Yeti mug. I think you get your own personalized Yeti mug.
Oh, get your Yetis. Maybe you get the mood.
That's if our man Cam Kubek remembers the Yeti mugs, which is yet to be determined. We're hoping. We're hoping he does.
Well, he did get the shout on the Matchday Minus 1 show, so maybe that was tactical.
So 6 p.m. for the pre-game show, 6:30 match kickoff, full coverage on the CW. Our friends Sonny Guadarrama and Roger Valdivieso will join us on the desk at Q2 Stadium. Of course, we'll be there. The team will be at Stade Saputo. And we hope to be bringing you a win. We'll see you tomorrow.